Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much. I'm so honored to be invited by Sabah Society. Actually, typically saya punya my April to July it's very hectic. Very hectic. I was in KL 2 weeks ago talking about empowerment for the marginal community indigenous Sabah. I was in Kuching 2 days ago talking about the protection, the intellectual property protection for Sabah intangible heritage. So I was actually I'm so tempted not to go for this one lah, but because I'm invited to talk about climate, and actually climate is my forte, because I'm a climatologist, and I haven't talked about climatology for so many berapa bulan sudah kan. So I thought this would be the opportunity. So I told my officers, whatever it is, please find a way that I can accept that invitation. Make it a priority. So here I am. So navigating climate uncertainty, data, disaster, and future of Sabah. I'll try to make it as layman as possible because I'm sure actually climate is very technical and I don't want to go to all that jargons and everything. But of course, I will still present some of the scientific data for us. But I'll try to make it as layman as possible. Okay. How do I do it? Okay, here. Okay, now the introduction. Climatology, global warming, and climate change. Okay. Climatology, how to put it? How do I start? Okay. Our climate, we need to understand the climate process. Only then we can appreciate what is happening around us related to climate. So actually, I would say, no, because I'm a climatologist, I think the most important ecosystem in the universe is climate. Because it is interaction between hydrosphere and also atmosphere. So that is the two most important components, I think, I believe. And I think if we are talking about sectors or everything that we do, it is always related to these two ecosystems, hydrosphere and also atmosphere. So what is climate? Climate is actually the result of interaction between the hydrosphere and also the atmosphere. Or simply put it, the interaction between the sea, the river, and also the air that we have. Whatever climate or okay macam everybody is looking at me. Can you follow me? Is that okay? Takut pula saya. Macam because I used to lecture, so tahulah my students are all climatologists, so definitely I'll go for all that terminology, that very technical So okay, it is the interaction between the air and also the water. So whatever we get, for example, why we have so much rain in Borneo compared to the other part, say for example in Vietnam or in the middle of China, because we are kepulauan, what is islands. So we are surrounded by sea, and we are in the middle of the equator line, Khatulistiwa. So what happened is the air moving from the northern hemisphere and to the southern hemisphere. It's always changed depending on the season, kan? If it is winter, I mean I'm talking about winter in the northern northern hemisphere. What happened is during the winter, the movement of the air is from north to the south lah. So kalau kita di Borneo ni, what we are getting is the air from China, from Japan, and they are crossing the South China and then kita pergi di sini. But during the summer, northern summer lah, because we have different, if we are talking about summer, and then the southern summer and the northern summer is different season kan, but we always use the northern hemisphere as the benchmark. So during the summer, what we have is the air is moving from Australia, from New Zealand, and to the northern part. So what we have is this atmosphere that is already crossing Indonesia. So it is an island, it is land. And that is the reason why during the southwest monsoon, the air is moving from Australia to crossing us. We have drier season. Because what happened is, it is crossing the land, all this Indonesian, the islands and everything. So the air that we are getting is less condensed in terms of moist, okay? But during the northeast monsoon, because the movement of the air is coming from the north, and before they reach us, the very vast South China Sea and also the North China Sea, and that is why it is condensed with moist, and that is why we have the raining season. So that is basically climatology. I don't want to go into details about it, but that is how we get our weather, that is how we get our climate, depending on where that air coming from. Whether it is, crossing land, it is crossing lake, it is crossing ocean, or it is crossing this hutan hujan tropika, and it will bring you different. Now, what happened to global warming? What happened when we have this global warming? Because I want you to understand why global warming can induce climate change. So, what we have in climatology, under normal circumstances, itulah yang kita dapat tu, that is what we have. Okay, every 6 months, it change from northeast monsoon to southwest monsoon. So, when we have global warming, what happened in global warming is, because we warm this, bagi si air dulu, I need some water. Okay. Now, the movement of that air, the atmosphere, during the southeast monsoon and northeast monsoon, why it's moved from northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere and southern hemisphere to northern, it is because of the change in pressure. And why it change in pressure? Because of the temperature, kan? So, during the winter, our northern hemisphere is colder, so the temperature is lower, so the pressure is higher. So because of that, it's and the southern part, it is hotter, so the pressure is lower. So okay, it is moved that way. Now, when we have global warming, what happened is, because we artificially warm this earth. Okay. Kalau yang tadi itu kan, sorry, I tend to mix with. It is okay with you, tidak apa, no problem, because they have their personal translator. Just so okay. Anyway, okay. So what happened is, when we have global warming, we warm our earth artificially. Okay. The northeast monsoon and the southeast monsoon, that is driven by natural change in globe. You get what I mean? But when we change that, and it changed the entire process lah. You get what I mean? I do not know whether I explain it. Hello, Datuk Roger, you get it kan? Yeah, kan? So macam it is like okay, traffic. Yeah. Okay. Let me Okay, let me put in analogy. Okay, kita ada traffic. Under normal circumstances, we know exactly what to expect. Okay, in the morning, if we go to the work, if we go to our workplace, and then we get this traffic lah, and then when we come home in the evening, and then probably it is less. But we always get that. But if there is some new, you know, artificial, you put new input into that dynamic, and then what happen is, say for example, you have this construction yang bertahun-tahun tidak habis, Datuk Roger take note dia punya tu, and then, or probably we have an accident. So what happen is, and then suddenly that, okay, normally there is no traffic jam, but now it is because of that change. And that is what we, dalam kita punya our climatology, that is what we call climate change. Why the climate change from the normal that we always get year by year? Because we put extra pressure, temperature to the earth where it should not be. So it changed the entire pattern. Yeah. So, and that is why global warming is equal to climate change. Global warming is the reason why we have climate change. But climate change is not necessarily drought sahaja. Even if we have so much rain, it is also because of global warming. And sometimes people ask me, you said global warming, but why we have so much rain? Yes, because we change the warming tu kan. Normally the warming patutnya di sana, and then we create new warm somewhere, so you change the movement of that air. So instead of that air should come from land, less water, now it comes from ocean, more water. And that is why we have flood where during the season that we shouldn't get. You get what I mean? So that is how climate change happens. Due to the global warming, and this global warming is human induced. Di mana tu? Okay, sini. Now we talk about climate variability and climate change. Ini pun sometimes people tend to mix up ni. Okay, because every time we have flood, climate change, climate. Sometimes the flood is natural. It is just the climate variability, and sometimes we can say that it is because of climate change. Climate variability is something like the monsoon. And we have 12 months every year, and we have 4 months wet season, 4 months dry season. And in between, that would be the transition. And we always get that. And that is climate variability. Okay? And we also, apart from that, we also have this ENSO. ENSO is El Nino Southern Oscillation. So this is the one that create the El Nino and La Nina. But this one, we don't normally get it every year. We normally get it between 3 to 7 years. So this is also part of the climate variability. Okay? Climate change is if we get something that is beyond that. I mean that contradict these patterns. Say for example, tapi tahun ni dia ada, because this year is El Nino Macam last year during the keamatan, what we have, hujan tau, sampai banjir lagi. During my years, the reason why government actually gazette 30 and 31st August as the keamatan is because 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that is the dry season. Habis-habis saja kita menuaikan. So when it is dry season, and then we can celebrate keamatan in the way that it should be. It should be outdoor. Keamatan dulu when I was kid, all the celebration outdoor. Even the unduk ngadaw, they have this big stage, sometimes in the middle of field, betul kan? And then they have to catwalk there, bawa cahaya matahari lah, and they can really be huminodun lah kan, sebab kan sekarang ni bawa aircon, bawa lampu lagi kan. But then after 20 years kan, keamatan ni makin lama, you get what I mean, it is no longer dry season, raining season, and that is why now our keamatan is indoor. So this is climate change. it changed the patterns that, that we normally have. Our dry season is prolonged, or probably the intensity of our raining season is higher. Okay? Now, di mana ini? Okay. Oh. That is the features of climate change. Okay, now. Okay. And climate change is getting worse lah for the last probably 30 years. Of course, sometimes our seasonality is changing. Keamatan dulu ada juga. There is sometimes it is also during the rainy season. But probably if we have 10 keamatans, probably 1 or 2 raining season. But now, if we have 10 keamatans, and then probably more than half of it is during the raining season. You get what I mean? So the intensity is there. And okay, more rainfall and also irregular seasonality, longer dry spell, drought, higher frequency of extreme weather. Okay, the last one, this is what we get now. Higher frequency of extreme weather. Normally what we have, even this year alone, berapa kali sudah Beaufort? 18 kali banjir. Okay. Beaufort ni memang daripada dulu lagi, it is a flood prone areas, yeah. But never in a single year it gets more than 5. But this year 18 kali sudah, kesian. We just send our bantuan lah yesterday because and they no longer have PPS tau. Beaufort ni kan dulu they have PPS, pusat penempatan sementara, temporary. Now dia sudah jadi pusat penempatan kekal. Serious, you go there and kalau ini kata sementara, tapi they have kitchen in that day one, and you get what I mean. And that is how climate change the way we do things, and also the kita punya livelihood lah. So higher frequency of extreme weather, meaning that the numbers too. It is, but actually, because if we are, maybe, I do not know, mungkin di sini kan anybody from physics punya background, kita ada this, tenaga adalah abadi. Our energy is constant. So if we have too much here, and then it will, less here and everything. But under normal circumstances, sebelum kita ada climate change, what happen is it is divided equally. That is why we have a moderate rainfall, and we also have moderate drought. And it is like, okay, we have this certain months, kita ada hujan, tapi satu hari itu okay, tidak banyak. Or we have this drought, and then probably our spell is, the most would be 10 days, and then we have rainfall, and then 3 to 5 days, and then we have rainfall, and then 3 to 5 days, and then we have rainfall. But now what happens is sometimes we have up to 30 days. Even I think recently we have more than 40 days, and that is very uncommon. And sama juga dengan hujan. Why we have more? Of course lah, this is also because of how we do our development lah kan. Tapi actually part of it is also because of the intensity of that rainfall is already changing. So sometimes what we have is, even though probably in a month the numbers of rain that we have to is still the same compared to the previous years, but the intensity in certain hours lah is more. You get what I mean? It is not distributed equally. So that is the worst part of climate change lah. And because we are in the tropics, we are more sensitive to this change compared to those in high temperate region. I was in Saudi before. Okay, saya cerita lah sikit because they asked me to my experience in Saudi. I was in Saudi for 4 years. Saudi Arabia, I was attached with this Climate Change Center of Excellence in King Abdul Aziz University in Jeddah. So that was in 2012. So why I was there? Because I joined this team of 12 lebih kurang lah, dalam 10 to 12 researchers. And what we do is we need to develop a model where we can predict heat wave and also cold wave at least 15 days in advance. Because the problem is di Saudi, the climate change is not so much there, but the climate variability, the natural climate variability in Saudi is a bit too extreme lah untuk kita. And that is why, kalau kita tengok, if you look at the YouTube, I think that was in 2008 or 2009, banjir di Jeddah tu, and more than 200 died, kan? Mati. Sebab suddenly, it comes. And because, masalah di Padang Pasir ini kan, the problem with Padang Pasir, if you go to Jeddah, for example, or any city in Saudi Arabia lah, actually kan, they don't have good drainage. Because it is always gurun-gurun, they take it for granted. So what happened is, in the entire Jeddah tu, probably, kalau ada hujan banyak-banyak kan, there is no way for the rain to get into the anu. Sebab everything is just, sama ada turap ataupun, concrete. So, and that is the reason why when rainfall suddenly come kan, in within 1 hour or 2 hours, so much, the intensity is that much, and itulah banjir dia. If you look at the YouTube 2008 or 2009, di situ tu kan, very scary ya. I mean, you cannot imagine. This is Padang Pasir. This is and they have that the flood is that extreme. And now, so the Saudi government, they have to gather all these climatologists, mathematicians from various backgrounds. My expertise in connecting the climate is bridging, is to develop the algorithm where if we understand that this is how much rainfall that we are predicting, what would be the impact on the ground. So that is my part. But yang lain-lain tu, they do the physics lah, macam-macam apa semua. So it takes us to develop that 3 years. So, and kenapa tu? And why it is important? Okay, selain daripada apart from the flood, the other problem in Saudi is the cold and also the heat wave bah. And you know that many of the Jemaah Haji or Umrah that is going to Saudi come from the Khatulistiwa, the tropic region. Because most of the Muslim are within this area, kan, especially Indonesia and also Malaysia. So they are not used to that climate. And also the problem is, Malaysia, most of our haji-haji umrah pergi di sana tua-tua tau. Because they don't have the money or probably belum lagi insafkan masa muda-muda tu. So they normally go there, yes, normally after 60 or, and because of that, they are very sensitive to cold wave and heat wave. So when they are there, and this jemaah tiba-tiba melawat, they are visiting this kebun unta lah, kebun kurma lah, and they are doing, and then the heat wave come, and then itulah yang dia kena heat stroke, heat stroke or cold stroke. Sebab kalau di sana, when it's cold, it is very cold, especially in Madinah. And when it is hot, and then, so what we do is predicting that. So now it's getting better lah, because now we have, I think the window is between 10 days to 15 days. So if the cold wave or the heat wave or even rainfall is coming, and then they have at least more than 1 week to warn the Jemaah. So okay, the heat wave is coming here. So you better classify your jemaah who are sensitive. I mean, all these old apa semua ni kan, you should forbid them from going outside, or if you want to go, and then make sure that you have protection, payung ka ataupun a lot of water, and make sure that they are. So I think minta puji lah pula kan. But I think after we develop that model, we have less fatality for jemaah, especially jemaah from Malaysia and also Indonesia lah. I mean, from jemaah from Arab or from Europe, probably from China, I mean, they can tolerate this because they are used to it, but especially from us. Yeah? So it's getting better now. Now, mana lagi? Kita pergi. So far, okay kah? Is it okay? Okay. Any questions so far before this one is interesting. Because here I want to be socialist, yeah? Socialist sikit. Because climate change is actually climate change. Why it is in SDG? So ramai orang kan, why climate change? We have so many other environmental problems in the world. Why climate change in SDG? The Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals is about justice. It is about equality. It is about protection for everyone. And that is why climate change is there. Because climate change is very cruel. The people who are driving that climate to change is the one that kita semua ni lah yang kaya-kaya ni, T20 apa semua-semua ni. We are the one that drive the climate change. Yalah. Because you have, macam Datuk Roger, dia ada 10 pasang kasut. Even though we own, kan? And then, you always drive cars everywhere, kan? Contoh sajalah, kan? Aircon 24 jam. We are the one that use it. Because of that, we change the climate. But when the climate change, and we have all this unexpected natural disaster, who is going to pay the higher price? The one that tiada resources ini semualah. Terutama orang kampung, orang yang ni. For example, during the flood in, bila tu Chester 2023 yang Penampang pun kena. Penampang actually, the flood in Penampang is worse than Kota Marudu then. But in Penampang, when they open that pusat sementara tu, and Penampang, they have more population is higher tau, and the flood is worse. But when they open that pusat penempatan sementara, the temporary, it is less than 300 lah, less than 300 is moving there. Why? Sebab semua orang-orang kaya ni, they have 2-3 houses, or they have friends somewhere, they can afford to go to hotels, so they can mitigate the impact. Kota Marudu, they have 3,000 moving to pusat penempatan sementara. And when we send the hero mails kan di sana tu, masa tu berapa kita ada only 3,000 mana dia kata, oh kami belum lagi makan daripada pagi ini. Because they cannot set up the kitchen kan masa awal-awal tu, because the water is problem. I mean, moving around that and to get the fresh punya apa semua tu. So tidak makan lah apa semua tu kan. And then kita punya makanan yang hero meal soup pun tidak cukup. And so it is sad lah. Because these people, they don't have the resources to mitigate climate change. Probably all their life, for 10 years, probably they only have 3 pairs of shoes. Kalau ada lah kan, mungkin mainly pakai selipar sahaja. But they are the one that paying the price. We are the one yang, create that, create that change, but we are not paying that price because we have resources to mitigate it. And that is why we don't think that it is important lah, semua-semua kan. So that is why climate change is in SDG, because we want to create this awareness. So apa lagi? What else? The impact of climate change. Natural disaster. Okay, ini tidak payah cakap lah kan yang kita punya. That is why we have more floods now. and then droughts. Nanti sekejap lagi I will talk about El Nino, which is coming. El Nino is coming. Dato' Roger, please lah. Can you please inform our okay, nantilah. Because it is coming. The probability so far, based on the global model, it is 80%. That is high. Of course, we have 20% of uncertainty. So it could happen, probably dia tidak juga. But it is always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared, kan? Even the banjir, Dato' Roger, I have been talking about it since August last year. I said that at least Sabah will have at least 5 to 6 gelombang waves. And even Dato' Roger, during my first presentation after we formed the new government, I was there to do the presentation. One of the things that I highlight is we still haven't seen the worst of that gelombang tu. So saya kata it may happen in January and also February. Bukan, I'm talking about during my presentation in December last year when I made the presentation. Okay? Yeah, of course they have lah this jawatan kuasa kampung, jawatan kuasa daerah, they are prepared, but I think they are not as alert as it should be. Sebab people even meteorology department, Malaysian meteorology department already warned about it, kan? So, but I don't think so. El Nino is expected to come in July, August. That would be the start. And it will persist until not really October, until probably next year, February, March. Even April pun mungkin dia masih lagi ada sikit-sikit lah. So what? Droughts. And it is expected to be one of the strongest. Super El Nino. Yeah. Of course, it is at the moment. Actually, our model at the moment is only the probability is 61%. But coming to next month, it is predicted the probability would be 81%. So itu juga kita punya La Nina last year tu. La Nina last year yang until January and February this year yang kita banyak daerah at one point tu kan, we have 10 daerah flooded kan, serentak kan. That is also predicted, and at that time the probability is only 78%, and it happens. So I do not know whether we already have jawatan kuasa bencana, it is already activated or not, because we can expect there are many places that air satu masalah lah, kita punya penduduk di pulau, di kampung, apa semua tu. Of course, we the decision maker, kita di sini kan, we don't have, kalau jadi pun, kita rasa sangat. We have the resources, beli mineral water lah, atau pergi bercuti di tempat lain, you get what I mean? But think about all these people who don't have that resources. And we must also remember that what is happening is not their fault, because the way their livelihood, their lifestyle, they are not forcing too much change to the nukan. It is us that do that damage. So natural disaster, agriculture, food security. At the moment, 80% of we are very much dependent kepada import apa semua tu. So expect that if really El Nino is happening, food punya harga will be sangat mahal. Why? Because we are importing that from Vietnam, from China, from Australia, from India. And these are all the regions that will be affected by El Nino. So definitely the productivity of the agriculture tu akan turun apa semua. And then when the supply is lower, demand is high, and then it will trigger the price lah untuk ni. So socio-economic factors yang ini kan, socio-economic factors ni yang probably I think YB ini kan, especially from all these vulnerable districts, and we actually have already identified vulnerable district. We have all that data. Tapi and they really need to because we don't want to macam last year kan. Bila tu, I mean, when was our last El Nino? That was 3 years ago, 3 years ago kah? Yeah, I think 3 years ago. Electric tidak ada masalah, SSB ada masalah electric, and we also have water shortage ini. And as the government, our excuse is, El Nino, buat macam mana dia telah berlaku apa semua. Yes, El Nino, but it is already predicted 6 months, 8 months earlier, and the preparation is not there. Kan? So, yeah. And new threats, health, ini pun satu lagi lah. The biggest problem in Sabah. Okay. Coronavirus actually comes from virus that is normally not within the human punya ecosystem, haiwan ataupun pokok-pokok liar apa semua. Tapi what happen is they mutate, and because they mutate, they now can transfer to human. That is what happening coronavirus lah. And one of the factors that can trigger this is climate change. So yang dulu di China tu yang jadi itu we do not know, but I think partly, I mean, we did a little bit of research on that. Partly is because of the climate change and partly because of the lifestyle lah, because they kill all the wild animal apa semua, and because of that the virus has no longer, they have their natural host, so they have to mutate and find new host. And so unfortunate, they pergi ke manusia. Now, the best part is Sabah ni, of course we have biodiversity. We are proud of our biodiversity. Kita punya orchid liar is the biggest collection in the world. Our pakis apa? Ferns. Ferns. That is the largest collection that we have. In Sabah alone, our ferns collection is biggest in terms of diversity compared to the entire continent of Africa. So that is how rich we are. But at the same time, our coronavirus is also very, very rich. So if we change the environment, sikit saja apa semua tu, and the potential of all this coronavirus to change host from their natural punya host, move into human is very high. That is why I'm urging the state, and baguslah juga diorang ni, they are listening. We really need to develop a very strong center in Sabah for biotechnology. Biotechnology focusing on inilah kajian microorganism, and UMS is doing good on that lah. We really need, because in Malaysia kita ni yang paling vulnerable lah, because of the numbers of that coronavirus in the wild that we have, sangat tinggi, kan? So probably the same, if the same change is happening, the same change, degree of change in terms of environment happening in Sabah and in Semenanjung, kan? Katalah the degree is the same, but the potential for new coronavirus outbreak ours is higher lah, because we have more variety. So I think that's all. I have already talked about the physical process, a little bit of climatology, so we understand how it works, and what is the biggest change in terms of climate change in our area, our region. Saya cakap tadi flood, and then the drought and the seasonality is changing, and I also talk about impacts. So saya rasa that's all. So way forward. Ini Datuk Roger lah. This is Datuk Roger punya job lah, because yeah. But okay, I think this is something that we can discuss. I don't have the answer apa yang kita perlu buat. I mean, in general, of course lah, I know what we should do. We need to do more research so we understand the phenomena, we understand the risk, and from that we can formulate good policies to mitigate that. But how? I mean, that is still motherhood statement kan. Semua orang boleh cakap. Everybody can say that. But what actually that we really need to do specifically? That is something that we need to keep talking, and we need open conversation, because different people will bring different perspective, and I only understand climate. Probably every one of you here understand the livelihood better, and we need to combine that knowledge lah. So itu saja. Thank you so much.